Ukraine turned $55,000 recreational planes into a bomber squadron, a reusable bomber squadron. Russia found out from a photograph. On July 13th, an advisor to Ukraine's defense minister posted a photograph. 10 aircraft lined up on a dirt airstrip, each one carrying a 100-kilogram Soviet-era bomb slung beneath the fuselage. Nothing about the airframes looks military. They started life as SkyRanger ultralights, the kind of kit-built recreational plane you'd find at a weekend flying club, selling for around $55,000 assembled. No weapons hardpoints, no military designation, no reason for anyone scanning a runway from altitude to give them a second look. Sternyenko called the photo historic. Well, he wasn't exaggerating, because that lineup wasn't the beginning of a new program. Defense Express noticed something in the image. The trees in the background are bare. No leaves, which means the photograph was almost certainly taken months before it was published, during a different season entirely. Ukraine didn't just build 10 bomber drones out of a hobby aircraft, it built them, used them, and sat on the reveal for months while the program quietly operated. And Russia found out about the functioning squadron the same day the rest of us did, from a Telegram post. Hey friends, Wes O'Donnell here, defense journalist, Army and Air Force veteran. Today we're covering the Gorinish bomber drones, what they actually are, the strike that just outed the program, and the honest tension in the reporting about whether these things come home or don't. Everyone's mental model of a bomber drone is purpose-built military hardware, composite airframes, defense contractor price tags, years of procurement cycles, and a name like NQ something with an acronym nobody outside the Pentagon can expand correctly. Well, the Gorinish started as a French-designed recreational ultralight, a hobbyist kit, the kind of aircraft built for the pure joy of puttering over a lake on a Sunday afternoon, not for penetrating hardened Russian airspace to blow up logistics infrastructure. Ukraine took that airframe, gutted the cockpit, replaced the pilot seat with fuel tanks and batteries, wired in remote flight controls and electro-optical cameras, and hung a 100-kilogram Soviet bomb underneath it. What used to be a $55,000 leisure aircraft is now flying toward Russian bunkers in occupied Crimea. That's the gap between what something was built for and what it became, and understanding that gap is the whole point of this video. Now, photos published July 13th by Sergei Sternyenko, an advisor to Ukraine's then defense minister Fedorov, showed at least 10 modified light aircraft carrying OFAD 100-120 aerial bombs. According to Sternyenko, the aircraft were used overnight in a strike against an underground Russian logistics facility near the Perekop Isthmus, the land corridor connecting occupied Crimea to Russia-controlled territory. That strike was reportedly a joint operation. Ukraine's Air Force, the Lazar Group of the National Guard, and the 34th Venom Unmanned Systems Center of the State Service of Special Communications. 3 separate organizations, one coordinated mission against a target Defense Express described as hardened underground storage and distribution infrastructure for fuel, Russian ammunition, and equipment. Now, Armyansk sits directly on the Perekop Isthmus, which makes it strategically important for exactly this reason. The target set suggests anything moving from Russia into Crimea by land has to pass through that corridor, and anything stored near it is stored specifically to keep that corridor supplied. Neither Ukraine's military nor its Ministry of Defense have officially confirmed the number of aircraft involved, the precise target, or the extent of the damage. No independent battle damage assessment has been published. Keep that in pencil. What's confirmed is the photograph and the platform and the target category. So let me walk you through the conversion, because the engineering is the story. The Gorinish is built on the SkyRanger Swift and the Ninja airframes, both French-designed ultralight kits intended for civilian recreational aviation. In their original configuration, they're single-seat, gasoline-powered, and about as far from military hardware as an aircraft can get while still flying. Trent Palmer would love these things. The conversion strips the pilot's seat out and replaces it with additional fuel capacity and batteries to power the navigation and the communication systems. Remote control replaces the cockpit instrumentation. Electro-optical cameras give a ground-based operator the visual picture needed to fly and target. Underwing and fuselage hardpoints added during conversion allow the aircraft to carry ordnance it was never designed to carry. The primary weapon visible in the July photographs is the OFAB-100-120, a Soviet-designed high-explosive fragmentation bomb originally built for aircraft like the Su-17, Su-25, and the MiG-29. It weighs approximately 123 kilograms total, carries about 42 kilograms of high explosive, and detonates into roughly 15,000 fragments on impact. This is not improvised ordnance. It is a mass-produced Soviet weapon Ukraine has a lot in inventory, now being delivered by a platform nobody designed to carry it. Now, other reporting on the broader Gorinish program describes aircraft carrying combinations of 120mm mortar rounds and larger OFAB 250 bombs with roughly 100 kilograms of explosive payload on 3 under-fuselage hardpoints. Range on the larger, purpose-modified variants reportedly extends past 1,000 kilometers, with flight endurance approaching 23 hours. That's not a toy with a bomb strapped to it. That's a genuine long-range strike platform built from the parts that would look completely unremarkable at any small civilian airfield in Europe. And here's the tactical logic, and it's smarter than it sounds. A converted ultralight has a radar cross-section and a visual signature that doesn't scream military aircraft. It's slow, it's small, and if you catch a radar return of one, the most likely conclusion is a civilian light aircraft that's wandered somewhere it shouldn't be, not an inbound strike platform carrying 100 kilograms of high explosives. That ambiguity buys Ukraine something expensive military hardware often can't buy on its own: the benefit of the doubt in the critical seconds before an operator decides whether to commit an interceptor. The cost math is even more lopsided. A kit-built SkyRanger airframe runs about $55,000. Compare that to the cost of a dedicated cruise missile or even a purpose-built long-range attack drone, and the Gorinish is operating in an entirely different economic category. Ukraine can afford to build these in volume, accept losses, and iterate on the design because losing one doesn't represent the kind of capital loss that forces a program to slow down. And I want to explain why the at least 10 aircraft in one photo detail matters more than it might seem, because this connects directly to how I was trained to think about force structure. A single converted aircraft striking a target is an improvised capability. 10 aircraft photographed together operating as a coordinated element with joint participation from the Air Force, the National Guard, and a dedicated unmanned systems center is something else entirely. That's not experimentation. That's an organized unit with established command relationships, a supply chain for conversion kits and ordnance, and enough operational maturity that 10 airframes could be assembled, armed, and launched as a coherent strike package. Remember, these planes come home. These are reusable bombers. When you're assessing an adversary's capability, the number of platforms in a single frame tells you about production capacity and organizational structure, not just raw hardware count. 10 aircraft in one photograph, especially one that Defense Express assesses was taken months before the release, means this unit has been sustaining operations at that scale for a meaningful period of time without anyone outside Ukraine's own command structure knowing the program existed at that size. That's a genuine intelligence surprise. Not because any single Gorinish strike was unprecedented, but because the scale had been successfully concealed. These are thought to be reusable, but there is some United 24 coverage that talks about some of these Gorinish airplanes dropping their bombs and then kamikazing themselves into the target afterwards. So I'd treat any confident claim in either direction with appropriate skepticism until Ukraine's own sourcing clarifies it. But what's confirmed is the platform's existence at scale, its demonstrated ability to strike hardened targets, and Ukraine's demonstrated ability to keep a program this size concealed for months. Somewhere in Russia's air defense planning, someone is now looking at every small, slow, unremarkable aircraft near the front, and they're asking a question they didn't have to ask a week ago. Is that a farmer checking his fields, or is that 100 kilograms of Soviet ordnance with a camera where the pilot used to sit? Well, Ukraine built that uncertainty out of a $55,000 recreational aircraft kit, 3 cooperating military organizations, and a photograph that's sat unpublished for months, while the program quietly did its work. Russia's entire air defense doctrine is built to catch missiles and military drones. It was never built to catch a Sunday flying club. That's it for today, my friends. If this was useful, hit like and subscribe. It's the best free way to support what it is I do here. I cover Ukraine's drone war and long-range missile capability 4 times a week. And for deeper analysis, I am on Medium and Substack. Check me out there, QR code on the screen for Substack, or just wesodonnell.com. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.